Hey, okay, I'm Nathalie Niddam, and I'm here with Greg Kelly, who is the lead formulator of these amazing products, which, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I love and use, although, well, not this one because it's brand new. We'll talk about that a little bit. But Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about, well, actually, before I ask Greg, what Qualia really is this incredible nootropic formula. And nootropics is one of these categories of supplements that gets a lot of, I think it gets a good rap, but a bad rap at the same time.
Yeah,
because we're kind of messing with brain, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Qualia, why it's different, and how it can be helpful to people?
Sure. So, quick 101 about nootropics. So, nootropics, really the idea is these are things that help our brain perform better. So, we're essentially upgrading our performance. And the other key point of a good nootropic stack, at least, is this idea that it's not going to harm us, that it's safe. And so when we designed Qualia, really we had a couple of big picture things in mind. We wanted to make sure high-performing people would be able to take it and notice an upgrade in how they perform immediately, that day, that week. But we also wanted to make sure that over time, it would improve how their brain continued to function, essentially repairing things.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that I love about Qualia, and what really drew me to it, is it's not a product that, like so many products, once you use them for a while, it's almost your body becomes numb to it and you have to keep using more and more or it stops working. Qualia, actually, it's almost like it nourishes your brain from the inside. You can sometimes start to reduce your dose. It just always works.
Yeah,
right?
So what we, we think in terms of, there's science, but then there's how you understand science, right? So there's this model of science called complex system science. So my analogy for it would be the movie Jurassic Park, because that was, when Crichton wrote that, he was really highlighting the difference between different scientific models, right? So in that example, you had, these brilliant scientists that were able to clone dinosaurs, right? So clearly scientific. And they also thought they'd be able to control the dinosaurs, right? Yeah. So then you have the Jeff Goldblum character, his name's Dr. Malcolm. He comes and he's like, are you guys idiots? I don't know what's going to go wrong. I just can guarantee you something is, right? And his model would be life finds a way. What you see in complex systems is they're expert at learning and adapting. And so what we as human beings are, and even our brain in isolation, are these amazing things at adapting, learning, and then changing the rules of the game.
Right.
So what would normally happen if you push really hard with a nootropic, you decide, okay, if X amount of caffeine is good, we're going to just do 4 times that much because that must be better.
Right.
The brain compensates really quickly. And so then what happens is you continue to need more and more in this snowball running downhill kind of game you can't win. Mm-hmm. And what we would say there is the compensatory mechanisms, the adaptation, are meaning that you have to do more and more. I think it's called the Red Queen.
Right.
That effect where you continually have to ratchet up to just stay even.
Exactly.
With Qualia, since we appreciate that adaptation's constant, is one, we think it's super important that you cycle things. Mm-hmm. So take it for a little bit, take a vacation. Yeah. And what you see when you start to look at that model is it's during the recovery where a lot of the magic happens, right? Like exercise, right? You push, you recover. If you don't do the recovery piece, you don't get as much out of exercise.
You break.
You fast, you refeed.
Yeah.
Same. So what we've seen with Qualia is when people actually do that, much lower doses of things that are just innately much safer, because it's the dose often that pushes the side effects.
Yeah.
Go a lot further, and we tend to see what we would call reverse tolerance. That over time, the brain tends to repair itself. So that, in a sense, I would think about our cells have receptors that are the ears and the eyes. They're what allows it to actually detect acetylcholine, dopamine, these neurotransmitters that help communicate in the brain. And what we really want to do is make those work better. So almost over time, have the ability to see more accurately, to hear a lower frequency sound. And our focus on Qualia was to do a lot of things to support both the receptors, but the membranes that the receptors live in. And when that happens, what we tend to see is that over time, people end up needing less Qualia than they did at the beginning to experience the same benefits.
Yeah, which I love. So why don't you, I think that Qualia is good for everybody, but if you could tell us just really quickly, what can someone expect when they start to use Qualia, and when should they use it? Like I have my son using it, when he writes heavy exams. I use it in the morning to have a really productive day. Like I find it helps me to focus. But have you seen different populations?
We see like big themes, but so I would say one of the earliest group that adapted us was things like the paleo group, right?
Yeah.
The biohacker world, like people that care about like high performance and want to perform better. But another big early adapter group would be people that athletics. So one of the key things with athletics, it used to be thought that the reason that we would disengage from workouts or towards the end, like
because we're tired,
we'd be physically tired.
Yeah.
But now we know it's mental fatigue. That's the key thing. So good nootropic stacks pre-workout actually help us work out better. So we get way more ROI from the investment in exercise, right? We want to be able to, at the end of that routine, be still going for it. So that's a big population. Another one would just be people that already perform at a super high level and want to be able to do more.
Yep.
So one of our customers was a computer programmer. He wrote this amazing testimonial, but basically the gist of it was, I started on Qualia a year ago. I was basically a code monkey. 2 months later, I was doing so much better at work. I got promoted up. By the end of the year, I was made CTO. Best investment I've ever made in me was a nootropic stack that helped me just do my job much, much better.
Amazing.
And so what I would say is what we've seen is artists have communicated, wow, it quiets my inner critic and lets me be more creative. People like that person, it just helped them do what they were already doing, but at a much higher level. So our core business has grown quickly because people that want to perform well, typically executives, people that already have good jobs that can appreciate what doing incrementally better or substantially better will do both for them and for their company have really embraced us. And the last piece would be we've had periodically spouses that just say, oh, when my spouse is on this, they're just much nicer to be around.
Yeah,
so one of the things we talked about early on, if you push one pathway in the brain too hard, you might perform a lot better, but be kind of a jerk. Mm-hmm. And one of our goals with Qualia was that you perform better and be a better person.
I actually used a nootropic a couple of years ago, and I won't name names, but I found that I was really focused. Mm-hmm. But in the afternoon, I turned into the Wicked Witch of the West. It was crazy. I get this crazy headache, and I think it was depleting something in my brain, and I ended up having to take serotonin just to balance it out so that I could not be a raving lunatic and a danger to my family.
Yeah, and for me, I would say one of the things I noticed, but it was gradual. It wasn't something I noticed day one or even the first couple of weeks. Was about 2 months into my first, experience with Qualia, I feel like, I'm way more tolerant with people late in the day. Traffic doesn't bother me as much. I just had more. I almost think of it as bandwidth for the things life throws at you that wouldn't normally be things that I would have been as patient. So.
That's amazing. Well, I think it's an amazing product, and I'm so glad that you guys do what you do.
Thank you.
So now you have a name, and it's got a really funky name called Eternus, and we know that if what we're interested in is longevity, anything with that name is something we want to know a little bit about. So I know we've been going for a while, so why don't we just cover this really quickly, because it's brand new on the market. You just brought it to the show.
Yeah, that came out a week and a half ago. So Eternus was a year in development, but really just like with, we started with the brain because our idea was if we upgrade the brain, people make better choices, right?
Yeah, everything else gets better.
Right, everything else gets better. But then the next thing would be essentially the cells throughout our bodies. So the key thing is that as we age, I guess the simplest way to say it is there's lots of jobs cells do. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons we age is they don't get to all the work.
Right.
And so our goal with Eternus was to give them more of the resources they need so that they can do more of the work that they need to do to keep us healthy. And so the way we would communicate it is we've got this idea of lifespan, longevity. Yeah. But really, use span, health span. We want, no matter how long we happen to live, we want personally, but more of the world, to be able to live that time healthy.
Yep.
So I know, I have a brother at one point that years and years ago, I think his daughter was around 8, and one day he looked at her, he tried to quit smoking a bunch of times and never been successful. And he's like, I want to be able to dance at her wedding, and he quit smoking the next day and has never smoked again, right?
Decision.
I know a lot of times when I work with patients, like a grandmother wouldn't care so much about her joints aching as much as she wanted to be able to play with her grandchildren. So
it's your why, tapping into that why.
Right, and so
absolutely.
The key thing with Eternus is we just think that if cells can do more work, the tissues those cells are in perform better, and when tissues perform better, we can do more of the things that are important to us.
Yeah. So that's the whole.
That's the short story.
So Eternus is basically cellular support.
Cellular
for
support.
cells to be able to do what they
mitochondria.
do. So what can people expect from this? Like some better sleep, better energy? I think you were telling me that even your Qualia clients will stack Eternus with it and find that they have a nicer finish to the day. Their sleep gets better.
We in our testing we did really 71 people we sent it out to, and were on it for what I would say 3 cycles. So just like Qualia, we recommend 5 days on, 2 off.
Yeah.
So by the end of the 3rd cycle, the core things that we saw were about 6 out of 10 people said they were much more productive, and a common theme among those people was at the tail end of the day.
Yeah.
Where they would normally feel like, even maybe with Qualia, like, I got home from work, had a super productive day, but now I'm kind of spent. They just had more finish. Right?
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. About a third of people, and many of them with Oura rings, said that they were sleeping better, and they were showing up on their Oura ring. We saw about half said better workout, about 6 out of 10 more energy. So things that, like you would expect if your cells had, more ability to do things, would show up in the real world. We just saw across those. And the other big thing we saw, because in that group, the ages ranged, I think it was from 21 to 78, but somewhere around 34 is where it seemed like there was a much more dramatic
which we'd expect, right? Because the cell starts to get more
challenged.
Aging's
incremental, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So it's much, really each decade more and more. We had, like as an example, 2 women that had struggled to ever put on lean mass, both said that they were shocked. Just in those 3 cycles, they had gained 1 to 2 pounds of lean mass.
And yet this doesn't directly, is not directly.
But part of what happens, like one of the big jobs of cell is cleaning up damaged proteins. And that's one that suffers with age. And when we do that, we actually can recycle those and actually use the proteins then to do better things. Right?
Amazing. And if you have better energy, you'll get a better workout. All of those things follow. Well, Greg, thank you so much. This is great. These products are amazing, and I will be giving you guys a promo code at some point so that you can save some money and try them for yourself, because I got to tell you, this company is amazing. If you really, truly don't like the product, they'll even take it back. So that's how confident they are in their stuff. They walk the walk, talk the talk, and put their money where their mouth is. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.